Hello and welcome everybody to Flicker Effect, episode 370. We are recording this and broadcasting live on Friday. Threw me off. Friday, June 18th, 2021. I'm David Lott. Joining me as always is Bobby Jackson. How's it going, Bobby?
It's good. It's a Friday. We're doing a show. It's not Sunday. I don't know. It feels kind of different, but I think we'll have a little bit of fun.
Change is nice every once in a while. It's nice to do a Friday
nothing
show.
wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. I don't have to be at work early in the morning tomorrow, so that also doesn't hurt.
No, absolutely. I feel the same way. And I'm thinking in all the shows that we've done, you said this is episode 370. I don't know if I can remember us ever doing a Friday show. Maybe it's possible, but I don't recall.
Yeah, I don't recall either. Part of me feels like it happened at some point. I mean, 370 shows in. I'd like to think at some point we did a Friday show. But yeah,
I know we've done a Saturday.
We have dabbled on random nights when Sundays can't work for us. But yeah, you're right. Friday is not a common one. So
no.
If it is a first, hey, welcome to Friday. Anyway. So yeah, the schedule's been a little off. It's going to continue to be off. Like, I know we may be doing a show this Sunday as well. I don't know. I don't know what your schedule is. But even if we do, I know the following like 2 Sundays, I will not be able to. So, as I will be out of town on a trip. So, yeah. Anyway, things are still kind of happening when we can. That's where I was right now. But how's it going? What's new?
Oh man, I don't know. So last week I wasn't available last weekend,
Right?
And I did something quite interesting. I went. Well, I guess let me backtrack a little bit. For the weekend, that weekend I went camping, which was fun because it's probably actually only the second time I've ever went camping.
Okay.
And in this camping scenario, it was slightly different than the first one because this camping, it was an actual like a cabin that we stayed in. And so that was different because the first experience was straight up camping where it's just the tent and, you know, you're using the bathroom of the nearest facility at the campsite. And this one at the cabin, it had its own bathroom and a little kitchen inside. So everything was kind of cool in that aspect that it was not quite the roughing it experience as the first one was. But I like having both the experiences. And it was a lot of fun. The weather wasn't too bad and it made for a good experience. There was different activities to do. So it made it a good weekend. But then on Tuesday of this past week, I went to Disneyland. More specifically, I went to California Adventure. And did I pick the wrong day to go to Disney? One, it was, I think, from what I recall, the hottest day so far of the year. It was, I don't know if it hit 100, but it was definitely in the upper 90s for sure. And it was also the same day that Disneyland and California went to the everything's open and no masks and all that kind of stuff. So it was interesting just to have that experience on a day that is super busy, super hot, and yeah, it was interesting. But the good of it, I think, for me was that I got to see Avengers Campus and experience that. And if no one has seen that, it's basically at this point an area in California Adventure. I think it used to be a Bugs Life area, but it's been converted into Avengers Campus where there's an area sectioned off for the Spider-Man laboratory where there's a ride that you can get on It's sort of same as at this point, Rise of the Resistance, I think it is, that you have to do a virtual queue and get in as soon as the time's available for it,
Yeah.
and then you can get into the line of the queue. Um, so there's that area, and then there's another area that's for the headquarters, Avengers headquarters, and you'll see different actors in costumes like Thor, Black Panther, Black Widow, there and others, and they're all kind of hanging out on the rooftop area of the Avengers headquarters. And then there's at some point they'll do a little stunt show that's there for that particular for a couple of particular characters. And then throughout the different times of the park, another time there'll be the Dora Milaje. They'll come out and do a little performance and pick someone out of the crowd to help them do something. So it's very interactive with what they've got going on at that area in terms of having performers and being able to interact in that way with the crowd. And the actors that are portraying the characters look really good. What are they called? Because I know that I keep calling them actors, but don't they call Disneyland and California Adventure people that work there cast members, right? Is that what they call?
Oh, the general employees, yeah, cast members.
Yeah. So the cast members that are there, they do a good job of making them look like their characters. And so I thought that was fantastic. And the costuming looks really on point, like as if they just really took it from set of the Marvel movies and gave them to the cast members. Mm-hmm. It's all well done. Problem being, I guess, it being such a new area, it was very difficult to get in initially. It took me about an hour and a half, I want to say, or maybe a little less than that, to just even get into the area, because they were only having a certain amount of people go in and out. And so that took a while. But once you're in there, it was a lot of fun. And I was one of the lucky people to be able to get on to the Webslinger ride. That was the new attraction there for that area. And what I'll say about that is I think it's a decent enough ride, but I wish it was less interactive, because one of the things you're doing is you're helping Spider-Man web up these spider bots that have kind of gotten loose and out of control. And there's this motion you're doing with your hands like this, like you're Spider-Man, to help web him up. Now, if you figure you're on a ride and you're trying to score points doing that, and you're like doing this, it gets tiring really quickly. And I'm like, I wouldn't have mind something more I can just sort of sit back and enjoy, as opposed to having to be so involved in it.
Right.
But yeah, other than that, I mean, it was a fine ride. I think it's done really well, and it looks good in terms of the visuals of it. But yeah, just that interacting part, I was like, man, that's a workout.
Right. It's one thing to have a ride like, I don't know, comparing Disney World to Disneyland, what rides we have here that you don't have there. But anyway, like we have like a Buzz Lightyear ride where it's just like you're just shooting at things like with a gun that's attached, and that's just that's fun. And there's a very similar ride for Toy Story actually in the Hollywood Studios park. That kind of interaction is not quite like what you're describing anyway. What you're describing almost sounds like work. So,
it really was. It was kind of like work.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'm with you. I mean, I haven't experienced it myself, but I can understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. So, but overall, it was a fun day and a good time, and it was really just being able to get out, and everybody seemed to be in that same mindset where just being able to get out and do things seemed to be the course for the day. I didn't really. I'm just trying to think if there was anyone that was like irate or unhappy or anything, because there was a lot of lines. I mean, I think even for the the Cars ride, we ended up waiting initially like 2 hours or so just to get on that one. And it was the worst. It's one of the worst things about it. It seemed like I had the worst luck in terms of picking which rides to go on, because whatever ride I got on, or whatever line I got in for food or whatever seemed to take a long time. And then I'd circle back past those same things for whatever reason to go to something else.
Right.
And there'd be either no line or a short line. It's like, well, I guess everybody had the same ideas initially as to going to the certain places first and doing certain things first because those lines seemed to be long initially. And then as the day went on a little bit, it seemed to thin out. And I was like, man, I should have did a different order, but you never know. So it all worked out in the end that I think we were able to get on everything and had a good time. So that was the most important part.
Nice. Well, that's cool. Yeah, I haven't been at Disneyland in I don't know how long, but obviously I don't live as close as you do.
Yeah.
But anyway, so lots to talk about, at least stuff that you have watched. I'm sure I've watched a couple things that I haven't had a chance to talk about on Flicker Effect anyway. That reminds me, I mean, I haven't brought up, so we have had a spin-off show in the past, Spoiler Effect, that kind of took a very long hiatus. Basically, just with scheduling, it was like, okay, this is a fun idea, but it doesn't look like it's going to work out. Well, long story short, we've kind of come back to it because I do enjoy that kind of format of a show where you can just talk about your thoughts on a movie, the entire review with spoilers. It's really just geared toward people who have also watched whatever movie we're talking about. And because I've enjoyed shows like that myself as a listener. So decided to at least make an attempt to bring that back. And we've recorded 3 shows actually. And because we've recorded them so close to each other, spreading them out a little bit, one of them as of this recording actually hasn't dropped yet. That's In the Heights. But we have released episodes for Cruella and A Quiet Place Part 2. So those are out there. And yeah, Michelle and I also recorded a review of In the Heights. I haven't heard your thoughts yet on In the Heights. So let's get started there. I'm curious. What did you think of it? You did see it.
I did see it. And that's only, I can't remember the last musical I've seen other than maybe Hamilton, which ironically is by the same person, Lin-Manuel. I always say his name. His name is a tongue twister at times. Lin-Manuel Miranda. I have to say it slow. Uh, yeah, so it's interesting because I guess until recently I didn't realize that he did In the Heights before he did Hamilton as a play, and you can obviously see where those seeds came from by seeing In the Heights and how that's done as a story. And I thought it was fun. I really enjoyed it. For me, the music was good. I liked the dancing. I liked the characters. I think it had a nice positive vibe and message to it, and it just I just really enjoyed it. I think that with musicals, there's that tendency for there to be the aspect of what is it that you might enjoy? Do you enjoy the music, or do you enjoy the dancing, or is it the story? And this, I think, had a good job of having those nice quiet beats when there wasn't singing to do some of the story. And I think that for me, I wasn't familiar with this area, and getting to see that story, I think, at least from the perspective of an outsider, kind of gives you a little insight into that world. And I think that what I really dug about it is just how it was a sort of a celebration of that neighborhood, of their culture and of their people. And you don't always see that, especially from this perspective, in a big screen movie. And is the director is John M. Chu, right? And he did
Yeah. They did a
Crazy Rich Asians. Yeah. So for me, and he's also come from a pedigree and background of doing a bunch of step up movies. So he has that capability as a director to be able to direct scenes of that nature. So I thought that all that played together really well in a just a movie that was a feel good, heartwarming celebration of a movie for me.
Um, so yeah, like I wasn't familiar with the music anyway for In the Heights before I had seen this. I knew he had done it before Hamilton. I mean, I didn't know that like all along. I mean, when Hamilton was kind of growing in popularity, that's really all I knew about Lin-Manuel Miranda. But eventually found out okay, he's done this musical beforehand. I had never made a point to go listen to the music to it. I mean, just for whatever reason. And once, I knew the movie was coming out, I also just, I don't know, I was like, okay, I'll just wait to see the movie. And I didn't really know what to expect. And I was pleasantly surprised. Or I don't know if surprised is the right word. I mean, he's obviously a very talented
Hmm.
writer and performer. But no, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like I don't even know what else to say about it. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, there's a lot of music in it, but it does find the right spots to breathe, kind of like you described. I really enjoyed it. I watched it at home with HBO Max. I didn't go to the theater to see it, but I could see making an effort if I had the spare time to see it in a movie theater, even a second time. That's how much I think I enjoyed it. So, yeah, I enjoyed it. I liked it.
I will say I did think at one point when I was watching it, thought it would have been close to wrapping things up, but it still
Mm.
had more to go. So I could see where they could have shaved off like 20 minutes of it, maybe, and had it about an hour and 40 because it's a 2 hour and some change movie. So
Yeah.
yeah, it did. I did get a sense at one point where I was thinking that it was right towards the end, but it wasn't, and it still had a decent
Mm.
amount to go. I was like, oh, okay, but I mean, I still enjoyed it.
Yeah. Same here. I enjoyed it. That was quite good. Um, I watched a film actually just before this recording that dropped today, and that was
Mm.
Luca. Luca is now available on Disney Plus. Did you haven't watched it yet? I assume.
No, not yet. And it is also one of those movies that are available just on Disney Plus. It's not like Disney Plus Premium where you have to
No,
pay the
no.
extra $30. So for anyone that's curious, you don't have to pay anything extra. It's just right there. And if you have Disney Plus, open it up and you can start watching it.
Yeah, and I mean, and that kind of brings up something as like a side note. I don't remember where I saw this. I don't know if it was an article or a tweet, and it was like somebody kind of referencing, sources within Pixar. And I don't know if you've ever heard
Mm.
anything about this, where it's like,
Hmm.
why is it, why is it the Pixar films are just getting these like basically free releases on Disney Plus? Obviously, you have to pay for Disney Plus as a service, but of all of the theatrical releases that Disney is putting out, Pixar films seem to just go straight to Disney Plus right now during the pandemic with no added charge. Meanwhile, everything else that Disney has put out that they've put like day and date on Disney Plus, you've had to pay that $30 premium. And I mean, it is funny when you think about it because the Pixar films have been quite, I would say, among their slate of stuff. I mean, it's nothing to laugh at. I mean, they're quite impressive movies, and it does seem like an interesting move to not throw a premium on them. What were you gonna sound like you were gonna jump in there?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's not quite true because there have been Disney and will be one Marvel release that are on Disney Plus as well. Unless you mean straight Disney Plus as opposed to the premium,
That's what I mean. I mean, the Pixar
as in
films
just Disney Plus. It's
the
not premium.
Pixar films so far have been getting a Disney Plus release without having to pay a premium to watch them.
Okay, right.
Meanwhile,
Okay,
Cruella, Mulan, Raya, is it Raya and the Last Dragon?
yeah.
An animated film. Um, those, I don't know how many others. They have been getting releases on Disney Plus, but you've had to pay
Yeah,
$30 to watch them on Disney
yeah.
Plus. But none of the Pixar films, I mean, I say none of, it's been this and Soul so far. I don't
No.
know if there was another one.
Uh, well, yes,
Um,
yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was going to say Onward, but no, that one came out
Yeah, Onward was right there at the kind
regular.
of at the beginning.
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
so it got somewhat of a theatrical release, but it got
yeah.
it like right as everything kind of went to yeah to hell. Uh, but yeah, no, it seems interesting like that the Pixar films have been kind of treated this way, if you will. But anyway, with that
And
said,
I think they had made the point that it was also um, people of color type films that aren't getting that premium treatment as well
hmm.
between the two Pixar movies, Soul
Oh,
and then this one.
true,
So
that's true.
yeah,
Yeah. But anyway, Luca dropped today on Disney Plus. I watched it with my kids just actually not long before this recording. And I will say it's like all Pixar films, it's an enjoyable watch for sure. Like I enjoyed the film. I thought it was good. You know, Pixar's tough because they have movies, and not to say I think they're all great. There's even a couple I'm not a big fan of, but for the almost extreme most part, Pixar films are almost always at least entertaining and good, or they're really great. And I mean, the first things that come to mind of the Pixar films that are like just really like great movies, like Up and Wall-E and I mean, Finding Nemo, I enjoy a lot. For me, Luca is it's entertaining, but it doesn't quite feel like it's up there with the upper echelon
mm.
of Pixar films. It doesn't even like I would say nowhere near them. Maybe that's a bit
Oh,
harsh, but
this sounds a little
I
harsh.
mean, but that's the funny thing about it. It's still a good movie. It's an entertaining movie. It's just it's like when Pixar puts out films, it feels like there's something that raises them to a higher level compared to most animated movies. And this just
True.
feels like kind of a good Disney animated movie. Like if this hadn't been a Pixar film and this had just been, you know, Disney's Luca, an animated Disney film, I'd been like, yeah, this seems spot on, but because it's Pixar, I guess I'm automatically holding it to a higher standard, and maybe that's unfair. But um, so it's like I want to be careful to not sound like I didn't like it. You know,
Mm.
if you're watching this, listening to this, and you're like, oh, should I watch Luca? I mean, well, for one, you already have Disney Plus; it's basically free. You should, yeah, I would recommend you watch it. I think it's an entertaining movie. But when I hold it to the Pixar standard, it it feels like it's in the lower end of the Pixar like filmography. Like and that's still quite good. You know, if I'm making any sense. So, yeah. No, that's Luca. Not much to say about it either, but I thought it was a good movie. And it's on Disney Plus right now. And no, you do not have to pay the $30 premium to watch it. It is included in your base Disney Plus subscription.
Yep, that's a good deal. I definitely plan on watching it. I'm going to try and watch it this weekend,
Yeah.
but we'll see because there's a few things I'm going to try and watch this weekend. So
Right.
hopefully I can get to it.
Yeah. What else have you been watching, Bobby?
So one movie I had a chance to watch, which is a movie that just came out on a streaming service that honestly doesn't have a lot of original movies, and I believe this might be their first. It's for Paramount Plus, a movie called Infinite that has Mark Wahlberg and Chiwetel Ejiofor in it. And this movie was supposed to come out in theaters, but at some point in the not too long ago past, they decided to move it straight to Paramount Plus instead of releasing it in the theater. And I'll say that I'm glad that it was on Paramount Plus because it gave me access to go see it. Because in theory, it sounds like something that on paper I would absolutely go see in the theater. And the basic premise is that and Mark Wahlberg is playing this character who has lived past lives and is in possession of something that in this current life he can't remember what where he put it, and it's important. It's the MacGuffin of the movie, really, and so he has to try and remember his past lives and his past self in order to be able to get to this thing. And Chiwetel Ejiofor is the foil, is the antagonist in this movie, and it's an interesting thing where it has those blends of something like Highlander, kind of a little bit, I would even say some Matrix aspect thrown in there, but what you end up getting is a movie that feels very hollow. It feels like it has these points and destination that it tries to get you to through the action and through the story in a way, but it all feels very familiar because it's pulling from other movies. And I think honestly, part of the problem is Mark Wahlberg's delivery. He's full on doing that Mark Wahlberg thing that anyone who does a good impression of Mark Wahlberg does when he's talking, that sort of out of breath kind of whisper thing that he does. And it's like on full display in this movie. And it's almost distracting because it's almost like Mark Wahlberg is doing an impression of Mark Wahlberg because he's doing it so much. But I will say Chiwetel Ejiofor as the villain, the bad guy, he is really good in it. Like it's like he's just sort of chewing scenery and doing it well. But beyond that, it just doesn't feel like much. It just feels like it's just a movie going through the motions and not really doing anything in a fun and interesting way. And not that every movie has to sort of reinvent the wheel or anything, but you at least need to make it, I think, if you're going to do that, those sort of same and familiar things, you at least have to have it in a way that seems like everyone's on the same page and having fun, or just making it play in a way that it just feels cohesive. And this movie doesn't. It just kind of feels like it's okay with just sort of painting by the numbers. And I think that's kind of the sin of the movie, is just that it doesn't seem to care enough about what it's doing. In a visual way, it looks well. It's done in that manner, a way that looks visually appealing, but the acting and the story just feels so hollow in a way that doesn't connect, and you don't really care about anyone in a sense. You're just like waiting to see what happens. And yeah, it doesn't do well in the respect of trying to get you kind of hype for this type of movie that you think you would be. So ultimately, I would say if you have Paramount Plus and a day like today and it's Friday night, you could throw it on and maybe get some enjoyment out of it. But I would absolutely go in with lowered expectations and maybe take it from that level and could possibly come out the other side really enjoying it. But I don't expect much. That's all. That's the best I could say about it.
Yeah, I haven't even. I'll admit I haven't even watched the trailer for this one yet. I saw when the trailer dropped, but yeah, I have. I guess not a lot I'm interested in.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot out there, so I can understand
Yeah,
why this one might not necessarily be top of the list.
there is. What's next? What else did you watch recently?
Mm,
What
there's
to
a new
choose
movie that came
from?
out. Yeah, I'm like looking at some of the stuff that I have on my list. Uh, there's this movie that came out. I think it just came out last weekend. That was on Netflix, called Awake, and it's with Gina Rodriguez, and she plays the mom of these two younger kids that on this day this event happens where there's like a solar flare that goes off, and it causes everyone's synapses and wiring, internal wiring, basically to kind of go haywire in a way that it keeps people awake. Obviously, there's the name of the title, that they're not able to fall asleep. And in some ways you would think, oh, okay, there's a lot of different ways you could take a premise like that, but they take it from a realistic standpoint and approach of saying, hey, if your body doesn't get sleep, eventually you'll start experiencing dementia and you'll go a little nuts in a sense, and you'll eventually die from not being able to sleep. And it takes that approach. And you do see at some point those things play out and what happens in a world where no one can sleep, and uh, how long can a world like that exist if that's happening not just in one isolated place but across the globe. And in the poster you see there, the daughter, she is something like she's special in some way. I will say that. I don't know how much the trailer gives away. I never watched the trailer for it, so um, I'll just say that there's an aspect there that plays out with the daughter. And I will say that I enjoyed this movie. I went in really not knowing much about it, and other than kind of reading the premise of it, and thought, okay, that's kind of an interesting kind of movie. And at some points, it kind of reminded me of a little bit of, not necessarily A Quiet Place, but some of that tone was there, but also a little bit of tone from the movie The Mist that came out a few years back. Kind of some of that tone is in there as well. But yeah, I think I came into it just not knowing much about it and really enjoyed the movie as to where it went, and how they kind of portrayed some. There's obviously things in there that seems like, okay, you're really stretching my um, suspension of disbelief here, but it's fine. I'll go with you because so far everything else has been pretty good. But yeah, going into it, like I said, had no expectations and came out of it really enjoying it. So I would recommend that one if you're sitting at home tonight and thinking of something to watch. That one I would say you might want to check out more so than Infinite.
All right, so that's Awake over on Netflix, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What's next? What else have you got on the agenda, Bobby?
Well, I figure this is something that I'll ask you about.
Okay.
We've gotten our third Marvel series that's debuted now.
Oh yeah,
And
we do have that.
that's right. Loki has
Loki.
come out, and it dropped 2 Wednesdays ago. This past week, we had the second episode. And actually, on a little bit of a side note, Disney had came out and said that they will be debuting all of their series on Wednesdays now because of how well that first episode did for Loki. And they feel as though that seems to be a nice positioning day for them to drop things. And some of that, I think I read or heard that it also helps them because they don't have to worry about dropping things the same day as Netflix might be dropping them, which they typically do on a Friday. So yeah, we've gotten the first 2 episodes, so we haven't talked about it at all.
No,
And
we haven't.
I'm very curious to hear what your thoughts are on the series.
I mean, without talking spoilers, however you feel, whether or not spoilers should be
Right.
shared yet or not. But I'll talk about it spoiler free. I'll just quickly say I'm thoroughly enjoying it. It's a show. It's 2 episodes in, so from a certain to a certain extent, it's like I'm enjoying what I've seen so far, which is very little. But yeah, no, I think it's quite good. I would easily, maybe I shouldn't say easily, but it's only 2 episodes in, but it's probably the best first 2 episodes I've seen out of the now 3 Marvel series so far. I feel better like right now, 2 episodes in, than I did with like WandaVision when WandaVision was quite good. And same with Falcon and Winter Soldier. But yeah, I'm thoroughly enjoying it, especially from from the perspective of someone who has attended DragonCon many years now. It's entertaining just from that perspective, watching it, seeing all of the scenery at the Marriott there, especially in this last episode, the second episode. But no, I think the show's quite good. What do you think so far?
I'm enjoying it. I don't think I'm as hyped on it as everyone else is around me, especially when I look online and see a lot of the news pundits, movie and
Yeah.
TV pundits and reviewers. They seem to be really head over heels for it. And I am like enjoying it, but I'm not like jumping up and down for it. Um, I think for me, the thing is that a lot of this show, how do I say this? So it seems like with this show and with WandaVision, a lot of the the conversation around it seems to be how much people enjoy how different it is and how unique and doesn't stick to the Marvel formula, which I always hate when people say that, but um, that it's just out there. And I think half the reason, at least it feels like to me, that people enjoy it, this and Wanda, is because there's an unexpectedness to it that they they like to start to theorize about and figure out what's going on and create 1,000 different scenarios and tangents for what could be happening. And that I think fuels that inner need to have that curiosity about it, I guess, which in on the other side of that, it feels like not all, but I definitely saw a certain amount of people that when it was on would criticize or at least ding Falcon and the Winter Soldier for not being different, but for more being sort of straight down the line in the middle of like what you've seen with Marvel so far with a lot of their movies, which almost made it seem like it was a bad thing that it was kind of like a show that you couldn't just have 100 theories about. It was just more like, okay, they're telling a story and it's not something specific to where it's intergalactic or magic or something. It was just more um, grounded MCU. And for me, I think it's not that I specifically want that in a series or don't want anything that's out there and weird or esoteric or something. I love those too, but there was something about Winter Soldier or Falcon and Winter Soldier that did feel familiar in a way to me that we hadn't had in a while, especially with everything that happened last year and how many movies got pushed and what we didn't see. So that felt like very familiar MCU territory, but done in a way that I was really enjoying. So I really liked how those first two episodes of Falcon and Winter Soldier gave you some action, that old MCU action that you enjoy, and some of the stories of these characters that you're familiar with already, and getting to see some of that play out in a longer format. So for me, the first two episodes I think still I enjoyed more of for Falcon and Winter Soldier than Loki, but it's like we're not talking miles apart. They're still very close in terms of how I feel about them, and I like what Loki does and represents as a show because of what it could mean for the larger implications of the MCU at large, and especially when you see some of the things that are happening, and it's a lot of time travel, and uh, for me, I think I just watch it and kind of take it in. But when I listen to certain podcasts or different review or see different reviews and hear the theories that go on, or even the talk of like um, different questions that they have about time travel, they'll say something, and I'll keep it very generic, but they'll be like, oh, well, okay, so the show says this, but then if the show is saying this, then how come this thing could have happened and not have been affected because of time travel? And it's like, it's almost like now you're starting to pull at threads, because if you start to pull at the threads, it'll all unravel. So it's like,
Yeah,
I don't bother messing with it, because it's, you can almost find a flaw in any type of time travel story because of the nature of it.
definitely.
And
Yep.
so, so I don't mess with that part of it. I just enjoy
Mm.
it for what they're trying to tell me. And I am really excited to see where it goes, and especially knowing how much of an effect it'll have down the line in different things. But yeah, I look forward to it when it comes out on Wednesdays when it drops. And for me, this is another series that is elevated what I feel like we're going to get from Marvel and the shows that they have on the Disney Plus. So I am definitely enjoying it as well, and look forward to more of it. And it seems like even with 6 episodes, it's going to go by pretty quick.
Yeah, that was another question. I couldn't remember if it was 6. I thought I'd heard that. So I guess you're confirming that it's a 6 episode run. No, I
Yep.
mean, yeah, I mean, obviously on the internet you can find opinions on all different sides, and
Yeah.
yeah, I would say for those people like reacting the way you were saying, like with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like it was too like kind of following, I guess, a certain Marvel formula. I mean, for me, I liked going from is I enjoyed WandaVision in the end, and then when we went into Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I liked that it was evidence that with these Marvel shows that they're not they're all going to have their own feel based on the subject matter. Like Falcon and the
Mm.
Winter Soldier obviously felt like the Captain America films, and I think that it should.
Yeah.
Not to say it can't change things up in that kind of Captain America genre, if you want to call it like its own little subgenre of
Mm.
Marvel stuff. But yeah, I liked that it felt like Winter Soldier and Civil War. But and then with this kind of seems like it fits, especially the more recent kind of Thor films like
Mm.
Ragnarok. Kind of has that feel, but it's definitely different from that too.
Mm.
It's not like straight up like Taika Waititi humor, but you know, it feels like it's in that universe, and I like it. But yeah, I mean, for those people that really just love it just because it's the kind of show like WandaVision where we can all just sit here and theorize, and you can go on the internet and watch all these millions of theories as to what's going on. I think what it seems to me has happened is that experience with WandaVision, everyone really enjoyed, and now they just are like, or you immediately yearning for that again. And then with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it was so not that kind of show. um,
Mm.
and now with this, oh, it's kind of like that again. But
Mm.
for me, as that guy who is not well versed in the Marvel universe, like a lot of people are, I kind of partook in a lot of that with WandaVision, like watching certain YouTube videos and reading stuff on the internet. So far with Loki, I really haven't, and I think I'm gonna just kind of keep it that way. I just want to watch
Mm.
it and enjoy it. I find it fascinating because you know I trust in still the MCU that this will, fit in a way that'll be really interesting. And but yeah, right now I find myself of course I ask myself some of those same questions. I'm not pulling at threads too much, but I'm like, well, wait, like how is it that
Mm.
this is a thing and other time travel hasn't been a thing? And but I also trust that in the end it'll kind of work and there will be a reason for that. But I want to enjoy this show. I don't want to like watch too many like, hey, what Easter eggs did you miss in this episode? And I'm like,
Mm.
I think for now I'm gonna stay away from that with Loki. Maybe I'll like partake in that once the whole like season's done or something. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that. And I have been partaking in some of the Easter eggs stuff. Not a ton. Maybe just sort of like, okay, is there something I missed? Only because I feel like at least with, well, not. Yeah, I think with all of these shows, and who knows how it'll be with some of the shows that they have coming out later on in the year and next year, but I feel like because these shows will have um, some level of influence and an effect on what comes out in the theaters, that I don't want to miss any kind of like things. And granted, I don't think that they'll give you something so subtle that it'll play a big part in the movie that you would have had to have seen that in order
Hmm.
to get what they do in the movie. But I like being in on the little things that might you might see this little thing in this show and it might be a little thing in one of the movies. I kind of like seeing those little things and being
Hmm.
able to catch on to it. And so I try and catch the little things when they talk about some of those Easter eggs just to make sure that I am at least in the know when and if they pop up in the larger MCU. But
Right.
other than that, yeah, I mean, I think that I feel that three series in, it's kind of amazing and really cool how they've been able to manage these stories on a streaming service as well as they have so far. And I feel like I don't know at what point maybe it will come into play because some of the other series were already filming as some of these shows that we've got now started airing.
Hmm.
But I feel like based on whatever feedback and whatever lessons they've learned from these first three will play into what we'll get later on down the line, whether it's, I don't know, they'll figure out maybe we need 1 hour episodes for more shows, or we'll need more of an episode count for more of these shows. I don't know, but I feel like they are even as good as these first three have been as far as how they've been able to be presented and put out there, that they will um, only get better as they've sort of have a time to kind of digest all the different aspects of what they've done so far and to be able to incorporate them in other series that come in 2023 or 2022, late 2022. So, yeah, I think that so far, again, without having seen the whole series for Loki, I feel like they're 3 for 3 in terms of what they're
Hmm.
doing on Disney Plus.
Yeah. So far, I would definitely agree. Um, all right. We're about 50 minutes in. I'm sure you got a lot of stuff you still want to maybe cover. So,
Yeah. Do you
I
not
mean,
have anything else that you've seen? I didn't know.
no, I mean, really, this week it was just Luca. Luca was my
Okay.
kind of only newer film. I mean, I talked about In the Heights. That's really it for
Yeah.
me.
All right.
I
So,
haven't watched today's Bad Batch yet. But I am caught up on Bad Batch
mm,
up until today.
good episode. I think a lot of people that,
Today's episode.
yeah, a lot of people that have watched Clone Wars will enjoy something about this episode, but obviously won't say more than that.
All right. I will say that
But
last
to,
episode I thought was quite good. That
yeah,
yeah.
this one, yeah, no, you're right, and I think this one might be even better.
Hmm.
Yeah, we'll
All
see.
right.
But anyway, um, another movie I got a chance to see when it came out, an HBO Max movie that was supposed to be in theater, but due to the pandemic, ended up going to HBO Max, and that is The Conjuring: The Devil Made Me Do It. And for anyone who knows, the Conjuring series is a huge franchise for Warner Brothers, and it follows different stories from Ed and Lorraine, and it's interesting because they always seem to find very peculiar stories that they've gone and done and to highlight in the movies, and this one is no less that, although I've seen some people say that it's not more in line with the other two movies as far as the type of supernatural aspect that's usually there. But I think I like this movie because it wasn't, and it kind of did something different. And even though it wasn't the same sort of supernatural level of a threat that you normally get, what I found good about the movie is what I find good about this series in general, which is just the relationship between Ed and Lorraine, and how well Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga do as actors in portraying these characters, and that bond and love that they have for each other, and have these horrific things happening around them, but they're able to be the glue for each other in order to get through these things. And that's evident in this movie as well. And I think that's what this horror franchise has that a lot of other ones don't. And it's that like they're the soul of this series, and you kind of you go for them but stay for the horror kind of elements of the series. And yeah, I just found myself once again enjoying it based on their relationship and the story around it and the mystery, because there's a bit of a mystery there that's going on. So I dug it. I don't know if everyone else is on that same page, but I think that for me, this was another successful Conjuring movie, and I would definitely be happy to see another Conjuring movie if they do that. Or if this was the last one, then I feel like it went out on a good note for me personally. But I would enjoy seeing more stories for them.
Yeah, I don't
Have you seen
remember.
any of those other ones?
Oh, well, I saw the first one, and I think that might be it. I was trying to remember if I'd seen. Yeah, I think maybe I just saw the first one, and I still
Have you
thought
seen
about
any of the
watching this one
spin-offs?
anyway, but I haven't
Really?
watched this one yet. No, I definitely have
Well,
not seen any of the spinoffs.
okay. It's not necessary, but
I didn't
I
think
do
so.
think that, yeah, no, you don't have to have seen any of the other ones to see this one. But I do think that you do see the continuing relationship build between those two characters throughout each of the movies that they're in,
Mm.
because they're in obviously Conjuring, the first one and the second one, but they're in one of the Annabelle movies as well. I think it's Annabelle. I want to say three, whichever the last one was. I think, or maybe
Mm.
two. But yeah, I think that's the strength of these Conjuring movies and the spinoffs, is having their relationship there. Whenever they show up, it's just always enjoyable.
Mm.
But there was another series I started watching on Netflix, and it's called Sweet Tooth. And I don't know if you're familiar with this, but it's based off a comic, and Jeff Lemire, I believe, is the comic creator for it. And I never read it. I've seen it when I would go to the stores, the comic book stores, to check out. And all I can say is that there's this virus that goes around, that what it ends up doing is creating these hybrid kids and getting other people sick, and some people have died because of this sickness. And so the two kind of happen at the same time, so a lot of these hybrid kids get blamed for what's killing off people, and so they're hunted by regular humans to bring in, and I don't know what purpose, because some of them are dead, and but some of them seem to still be alive. But with this character of Sweet Tooth, he's unique in that he's been raised by his dad and is able to have conversation, talk, and uh, not not do things in a way that are typical of other hybrid kids. And so this story, without saying too much, kind of picks up at a place where Sweet Tooth is trying to find his mom, and so he is going across the country to try and find his mom, and uh, being able to do that in a world where everyone is trying to hunt him is dangerous, and sort of you're following along in that adventure. And I've only seen the first 2 episodes so far, but I'm liking what I'm seeing, and it's a story that's it's just it's heartwarming, but at the same time, uh, it makes you feel a little bit of empathy and dread for this character because of what he's having to go through, and some of his trials and tribulations. So I will finish this series, and especially I think it's only maybe 8 episodes of an hour each in length. So I'm enjoying it well enough to finish it, and I don't know, I can't remember if it's gotten a second season or not, but yeah, this one is one that I've been enjoying. So I will eventually report back once I finish that series.
Yeah, another show
And
I've been interested, but I haven't seen myself.
oh, you have? I
No,
didn't
I
know
have
you were
not.
interested in that one. So
I'm interested.
no,
in
I
it, but
mean I didn't know you were
I've
interested.
heard good things from a friend who was like, "Oh, you should check
Oh,
it out." I'm like, "All right."
oh, okay. So let's see, where else can I go? Okay, another show, HBO Max. I haven't checked out much other than the first episode because I heard good things about the series. It's called Hacks, and it's with Jean Smart, and she plays a kind of a washed up comedian that's in Vegas, and she ends up being being paired up with a disgraced writer that she herself is not very likable, and she's paired up with Jean Smart, whose character is not altogether likable either. But for some reason, they, at least within the first episode, find a bit of a kinship in one another, because they both seem to have kind of a damaged um, aspect to them that is symbiotic to each other. And I've heard nothing but great things about this series. And I'll say within the first episode, it was enough to make me interested, but I haven't seen the way she acts because she's a fantastic actress. But the story in and of itself and where it can go and all that different stuff, I haven't seen that yet to the aspect of where it could be so good. But the first episode was good enough to where I would want to stick with it and finish the season. And again, that's a show that I don't know if it has a second season yet. I know some of these shows had gotten picked up for a second season, but I wasn't for sure if this one had just yet. But it's on HBO Max, so if you are at all interested in Jean Smart as an actress, I would check it out because I did enjoy the first episode. I'm just not quite there yet in terms of how everyone else seems to be really loving it yet, but I've only seen one episode, so we'll see. And another show that I started watching that I do feel like I will most definitely try and get through is Warrior. Have you seen this show or heard of it at all, David?
No, I have not. In fact, you had texted me, "Oh, I watched Warrior," and I was like, well, what is Warrior?"
Mm.
So I have no graphics or anything pulled up for it, but
Oh, well, I remember hearing about this show a long time ago. The basic premise of it comes from, it was a story idea that Bruce Lee had and he wanted to have made, and I imagine he would have been the star of it himself, but it was never done, and obviously kind of just set wherever it was for the longest time until it eventually got made into a series, and I think it was initially on, I want to say Cinemax, and recently with HBO Max, they brought some of the stuff that was on Cinemax over to the HBO Max streaming service. And so now it's becoming available and more people are kind of getting eyes on it. and spreading the word about it. And it's a story where this character comes over to San Francisco, and he is treated in a way that a lot of Asians were treated during this time. And I want to say this takes place. I'm gonna get the year wrong, but it takes place, I would say, not all that long after the Civil War. So, obviously you can understand the time frame we're dealing with, and the the area in which he's living in Chinatown of San Francisco, it's overrun with different gangs and violence, and he himself is a fighter and gets kind of recruited into a gang and has to maneuver through that gang while having his own agenda of what brought him to the U.S. in the first place. And the main star of this show is Andrew Koji, who will be playing Snake Eyes, not Snake Eyes. He'll be playing Storm Shadow in the Snake Eyes movie that's coming out this summer. And so far, I would say, what have I seen? Maybe 2 episodes, and I'm enjoying it because it's that kind of show that's right up my alley. It's an action type show. There's good stunt choreography with the kung fu and the fighting that's going on there. I should say martial arts because I don't know that it's specifically kung fu, but I just really enjoy that kind of show, much like a lot of the stuff that I'm watching from the Gangs of London show. The type of violence and fighting that's going on in there is similar in here as well. And the story I'm intrigued by and to see where it goes, because it almost plays like a little bit of not, I hate to always say this because a lot of people will throw this comparison, but it's that kind of Game of Thrones aspect of where there's these different rivaling families and stuff like that. So you have that element to it as well, that kind of political aspect to it. But yeah, it's just, for me, it feels like it's really smartly done and written, and I'm enjoying the main character. He's very charismatic, and all the while loving the action scenes of it. So that's one I would absolutely recommend if you love action in the same way, because there's not a lot of shows I think that have that pure action feeling to it like this one does. What else? What else? What else? Okay, so another one that was I heard good things about, and I have not seen much of, so I can't say too much about it. Is the show that's on Freeform called Cruel Summer, and the basic premise is that this show takes place over 3 summers, and this young girl who's at the center of the story. You see her in different phases of those 3 years, and there's a dramatic change between each year, and the show cuts back and forth between the different years, and so her physical look is different, and you can tell obviously by what's going on in that particular year what what was going on in that storyline. So it's not confusing the way they cut it between the 3 different times, because her hair looks different, she as a person was different. But the basic story is that there was this girl that the main character looks up to, and that main character ends up being accused of doing something to this other girl when she goes missing. And you're seeing that story play out a little bit in pieces as you're jumping between the 3 different years. And so far it's pretty good. It's intriguing because you don't quite know how things end up getting to the point where this other girl goes missing, and you're starting off seeing that relationship as they get introduced to each other, and then also then within the second year that girl is out of the picture, but you don't know why. And then in that third year, she's more or less at that point being accused of doing something to the girl. So the mystery of how it all kind of comes together is at this point making me very interested in it because of you don't know how it all unfolds. So it's a cool little murder mystery. I don't know that I would say it's an actual murder mystery because they haven't said if the girl is dead or not yet. So I'm very early on into it, but I am liking it so far. And I've heard from other people that have watched it all the way through that it is good. And this one I do know for sure got picked up for a second season. I think I just read about it maybe a couple days ago. So it's someone that will still be around. If you do enjoy the first season, you can look forward to another season of it. I'm pretty sure you haven't heard of this one. I'd be surprised if you had.
The Cruel Summer or something else?
Yeah, Cruel Summer.
Oh no, I've heard of Cruel Summer.
Yeah. Wow.
Have.
Okay. You totally caught me off guard. I wouldn't have thought of all the things I've talked about today that Cruel Summer would have been the thing that you heard anything about.
I haven't watched
How did
it.
you hear about it? No,
How did I hear about it?
How did you even know about it?
Well, so I listened to Kevin Smith's and his daughter Harley Quinn Smith's. I listened to their podcast, Vegan Abattoir, and I think she's talked about it on there. So like I also follow her like on Instagram. So just mainly through her like social media posts about it. That's how I know about it.
Okay.
Since she's in the show.
Okay. Well, yeah. I was gonna say I suggest that you watch it, but I know how limited time you have to watch things, and so I don't.
It's
know
piqued
that.
my interest, Not to say I would like never watch it. I would watch it, but yeah, will I? We'll see.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But that's it for me for now. Since we'll probably be recording again in a couple days, I can spread some stuff over to that next.
Spread
recording.
it out a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's good to catch up on a Friday. I know it's been a little bit since you've been able to share some of the stuff you've been watching. So, yeah, thought we'd spread it around a little bit. Do some tonight.
Yeah.
We'll do some Sunday. And hopefully we will be recording again this Sunday night. We will let you know for sure. With that, we'd always love to hear back from everyone listening and watching. You can email us at feedback@flickereffect.com. You can reach out to us on Instagram and Twitter at @flicker_effect. We are obviously on YouTube at youtube.com/flickereffect. Make sure to like and subscribe. Hit that bell icon to be notified whenever we go live again or post videos in the future. And you can also post your questions and comments right there on YouTube down below. Make sure to do that. With that, I'm David Lott.
I'm Bobby Jackson.
Thanks for listening and watching.